Welcome to the Quick 10 podcast, brought to you by Trac, focusing on all things FedCon and cyber defense from different perspectives and different personalities, all in 10-ish minutes. Here's your host, Derek White.
All right, welcome back to another episode of the Quick 10 podcast. I am your host, Derek White from Beryllium and Trac, and today I'm joined by Samantha Sherrill from Frazier Deeter.
Yes, sir.
Correct. Nice,
yes, sir.
Nice. Just met you, so this is our first guest of this event that I have not met yet, so this is nice.
It's exciting.
Yes, so thank you for being on. Tell us a little bit about your role and what you guys do, and then I'll pepper you with some questions.
All right, so I am a senior advisory associate with Frazier Deeter. I specialize mostly in high trust and HIPAA, but we've recently stepped into the CMMC world as it's become more and more relevant and prevalent. We focus a lot on the readiness side of things, so helping organizations not just understand the controls, but help them understand ways that we can implement the controls and really get them ready for when they're going to be sat down by a validated assessor and dug into and excavate everything that they can.
Well, the high trust background is interesting. So this is if anybody's 5-6 years into this CMMC space and weren't part of high trust and healthcare side of things and the HIPAA side of things. I worked for a firm back then when that came out. Some similarities to some of the way it was constructed and the confusion and the rollout and all that kind of stuff. So interesting on a couple of the questions I might have for you, and there are no questions pre-planned, by the way. This is just live in person, so we're gonna fire away. So in that role, so your company's been around. You were saying before we got on here about 15 years or so. You're spread around the country, CPA firm, auditing, assessing. That's what we need more of. That's what the industry is always going to need more of if we're going to have these organizations who are seeking certification get there. A lot of readiness, we're going to get to that. That's one of the things I wrote down when we talked. But some of the similarities that you do see that you like, and maybe some of the things you see that are far more, maybe more challenging or strictly different than, say, the HIPAA world with healthcare and CUI and defense and government related on that. Anything to share there?
Definitely. So with HIPAA, I found it's not as prescriptive. HIPAA is very much open to interpretation. You implement the controls how you see them written. Mm-hmm. Whereas things like high trust, it's very prescriptive. They have exact number of elements that you have to meet, then they go further into the illustrated procedures, and here's how you need to test that those elements are met. And I think with the high trust background, it's helped me significantly in CMMC world because high trust has a lot of NIST controls in it.
It does, yeah.
So coming from that framework over to this one, it was kind of a plug and play swap. And I think my favorite part about high trust and CMMC is they do have those objectives that you need to test. So yes, they do give you that overarching control like HIPAA does, but then they tell you here's exactly what we want to see to meet that control. So if you know how to read it, if you know what they're really looking for, the answer is right in front of you, and it's nice to try and help organizations understand here's the answer that you need and here's how you get there.
No, that's good. And I'm not even going to try to pretend I remember what the NIST controls for HIPAA were in the 862 or something like that. I can't remember. But yes, that was, I remember back in the day, and we did a lot of this at the beginning too, when we helped with different frameworks versus just NIST 80171 and DFAR 7012. And, been doing this for 8 years now. It has zeroed in on finally on where it needs to be. So from a readiness perspective then, small to medium-sized businesses, you personally said you like working with them, which I love to hear as well. How do you feel the world is now, say, than it was maybe 6-12 months ago on understanding what they need to be ready, and where are you seeing most of the time spent within the framework? Do you feel it's like the bigger eye-opener for anybody that's small to medium?
So what I've seen lately and the assessments I've done is a lot of organizations don't understand what they need to do to meet the control, because the template that they give you online, things of that nature, it's just that overarching control. It's kind of like HIPAA does, where here's what we want you to do. They don't tell you what they're looking for in order to show that you do that. Access control is a great example. They say implement least privilege. What does that mean? Say you're a small enough organization that everyone needs that access. How do you show an assessing organization, this is what we're doing, this is why it's least privileged? Yes, some people can access it, they can't edit it, they can't delete it or manipulate it. So I enjoy working with those organizations where they genuinely want to protect their data. They care enough about what they're doing. They love what they do. And how do we get there without having to spend an arm and a leg? So it's nice to get to flex the creative side of my brain, and it's more of a collaboration than it is a readiness mock assessment.
Yeah.
And it's great.
Well, that's going to be a common theme. We did these a year ago at the same event, and the regulations were just falling into line at that point, with still some big milestones to come that happened last summer. But the common theme I think we're going to see here over the next couple days is wanting to do the right thing, but at the right price.
Right.
So when you get into the small to medium size business world, one of those carries a little bit more weight, and I don't mean that in a negative way, but the right price becomes a very difficult thing. We had a guest on earlier that talked about the regulation and the drilling down into CUI or not CUI and contract language and your organization and your workflows. Like, all that stuff matters when it comes to your scope if you're going to build an effective program with a defined boundary. So we're on the provider side ourselves, and obviously boundary is everything, and we provide a boundary because we have an enclave for our users, but it's not for everybody. Right. And on the small to medium sized stuff, it might be our best pool to swim in, but it doesn't mean just because you're a small business that you can fit into some box, right? And so on the readiness side, again, not so much the assessing side, where do you feel the understanding and want to be educated lands now versus maybe how it was in the past? You see that getting better?
I definitely do. I've seen so many more organizations care about the why instead of just the how. They understand we need to get this implemented, we need to get this done in order to get these contracts, but for them it goes a step further. It's not just money driven. Some organizations, yes, sure, I will say. But the ones that I thoroughly enjoy working with are the ones who are doing it for the right reasons, and pricing is a huge factor. They're small, they want to operate as revenue forward as possible, but they also want to make sure they have enough room in that budget for things like CMMC and regulatory compliance. So the way that we try and go about it, we don't try and pitch, here's all of these top of the line tools that you can use. We like to sit and kind of collaborate on what's a creative way that we can meet this control, really show that you're compliant without having to spend the extra penny on it.
Right.
And, as a firm, yes, we do care about revenue, but that's not really why we're in it.
Yeah.
We're in it because we also care about the mission and why we're doing what we're doing. And that kind of is the theme as to why I work with Frazier and Deeter of, we want to know why you're doing what you're doing, and we want to help you do what you love to do. And that's hard to find. And the organizations that I've gotten to work with, I've been very lucky because they all genuinely seem to care.
Well, the human element means a lot still, and that's one of the things that we say a lot of just ourselves, but I know that's when you know you're talking to the right people at a conference like this, is you can tell that matters. The way we actually started our company, oddly enough, so I love to hear this, is that you care enough. I mean, you do, and you don't want to just say, here's your assessment and have a nice life. That's how it used to be back in the day. And a lot of people went for more affordable assessments from people who weren't probably experts. And so it feels like you got a really good deal and you got a really good output here, and now we can go make decisions. But if the understanding's not there, then the decisions end up becoming years before you find that out. So that's actually why the way Cuick was built back in the day was we weren't shy with what we feel you could do. We're not going to do it for you, but no small business wants to manage 30 vendors or 30 tools. And then also, by the way, got to keep it there, which is another big thing for years and years and years, the continuous monitoring side, the reporting, the who's going to do what, defined roles. And so it is nice to see some of that taking shape. So on that topic then, shifting over to the assessment side, where are you seeing things? I mean, do you see a good uptick and a good evolution, if you will, of assessment day and readiness, that when the question gets asked to Derek by the assessor, that Derek knows what he's going to say and why he's going to say it because it's on documentation? Do you see that better than it used to be?
I definitely do. The documentation piece has dramatically improved, and I think that has a lot to do with CMMC and a lot of the other frameworks, because we're not just going in and trusting your word. You trust but verify. We want to see, you told us you're doing this in your policy and procedure, show us that. And the organizations who go above and beyond with documentation, sometimes it is excessive, but that, I love seeing the documentation side of it, because you know exactly what you're looking for, you know exactly what we want to see. And as a readiness assistant or readiness assessing firm, we can then take that and turn around to a C3 PAO and say, here's where they are. And we work close enough with them that we get the entire scope. We know here's where the boundaries are, here's where things need to change. This is what we know. And we can sit in with the C3 PAO and the firm or the organization and kind of walk them through the assessment and stand up for them when they don't know what they're trying to say. We know their systems well enough, and we know how their environment works, that if an assessor tries to push back and say, you know, this is black and white, we need to see this control operating like this, that's not always the case. You know, there are alternative measures that you can implement, compensating controls, and so it's been really cool to see organizations understand and grasp that side of it, and then all of that documentation coming out of it is just night and day from when I started to now.
Oh, I was just gonna say the old days of looking at documentation, and I can see it's in there somewhere. So good job. At least you have well, it's another story, but at least you have documentation, and it's a mess, but it's in there. So that's at least a better confidence than I have no idea what you're talking about. So yes, and I would agree that has gotten better. We don't do the assessments ourselves, so we're on the provider side, but it is good to hear that from somebody who's been through it from the front end and understanding and chaos, and is it going to happen, is it not going to happen, and why do I have to do this, to seeing it come to fruition, which is great to hear. Well, thank you for spending some time. We keep these brief on purpose, because if people want to hear more, you get to send them somewhere right now. So where can people go to learn more about what you do and what you guys do as an organization? The floor is yours on that.
So you can go to frazierdeeter.com to see more about what we do, and we are on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, you name it.
Nice.
My name is Samantha Sherrill. You can connect on LinkedIn. I'd love to hear stories, talk more about it, and this has been an amazing opportunity.
Well, thank you. This is the best part about doing these, like I said at the beginning, to be able to meet people. I know I saw your guys' booth out there, so I'll stop by and we'll catch up more. But thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it. Last minute, which is awesome. And enjoy the conference, and we'll maybe have you on again next time, and we'll see where things are at then.
I'd love that.
All right. Thank you.
Of course.
Thank you for listening to this episode, and make sure to subscribe to the Cuick 10 podcast wherever you get your podcasts. For more information about Cuick Trac, visit our website at www.cuicktrac.com.